much more fun. You know that only the good die young. I tell you, only the good die young. Only the good die young. Your mother told me all that I could give you was a reputation. Oh, she never cared for me. She had for me. Oh. All right. Good morning, my doggies. It's 6:33. It's September 3rd. It's Wednesday. I hope everyone's feeling well. My name is Scott Redler, the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Lab.com and founder of Red Dog Mindset. By the way, did any of you guys watch the Billy Joel special on HBO? Unbelievable. I loved it. Granted, I'm, born in 1972 and I grew up in Long Island, and my mom loved his music, and just cool to see the story of how someone becomes who they are. Everyone thinks, they were born this way, or it's an overnight success. 20 years of work to become an overnight success. But anyway, it was cool, right? I thought it was great. And anyhow, and then now he's like old and coming on stage and looking at his life, and did have some trials and tribulations. Another key is never take your buddy's best friend's wife. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, granted, he tried to commit suicide twice too. Jesus. Anyway, life is a winding road filled with bumps. How do you handle those bumps? By being mental tough and by controlling what you can control and moving forward. Same thing with the markets. Every day is a different day, and some days you feel great, some days you feel flat-footed, some days you feel like you made great decisions, some days you feel like somebody knocked you over the head, and and you didn't go to your desk at 9 o'clock, so this way at 12 o'clock you could have all the positions you had back in the morning. But anyway, the more though you're sitting at your desk knowing how to make the right decisions at the right time, the more consistently you're going to make money over time. I do practice gratitude. This morning I did the 20 and 5-20, started doing some breathing techniques in the sauna also, besides the 20-minute workout where I think about levels, positions, life. Yes, thank you for Chase. Chase started school yesterday. He took his road test and passed first day of school. Everyone knew he was taking it. He rose and he did it. And I told the boys I'll take him out for a steak dinner if they pass, or he's going to be going to Sizzler if he doesn't. Anyway, he passed. It was a good night. So good luck with junior year. Start off things on the right foot. Hopefully you guys started off on the right foot in September, where there were a few little signals to be risked down. If you were, what do the buyers do again? Buyers took over after the open. I remember on this gap down, the Bears took control August 1st. Everyone thought that was it. And then the next day, you kind of filled the gap and held the 21-day made new high. So all of a sudden, here we are. SPYs are up 3. Filling the gap, 643. I don't know if you could fade the open, but I would definitely wouldn't be buying the open, after a move from 634 to 643. What is that? That's like a decent sized move. I would think though, into this area, you could probably be a better sell than a buy. But anyway, Qs also look like they're filling the gap. The active bears they just don't have power. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's talking about, first it was August and now it's September, and PS, here we are filling the gap. This is what both moving averages are. So we'll see if the active bears have any power. They probably don't let, the Qs get over. What's this? This is 570. You would think 570 rejects price. 570. So if you were thinking lower prices in September, if that's what you're thinking and that's your idea, there are spots to, sell into strength. If you bought into the 50-day, right, makes sense, right, from 583 down to 559, right on the 50-day. If you bought into the 50-day and you held into today, I would be trimming some. Anyway, with that being said, yes, Google, wow. But look, I just want to show you some relative strength wise. So, we all talk about relative strength and how to make decisions, right? So the Qs went to the 50-day moving average. What did Google do? Google held the 8-day. So is Google a short? No. Is it a relative strength? Stay with? Yeah. I cleaned up my positions a little bit last week, so I'm a little annoyed that I don't have my Google on, because I have had Google on pretty much since here. I just figured, hey, if the market's going to correct, why am I going to be in it? And I could have went back to it yesterday, but I didn't. But bottom line is, I'm not short it. There's some people short Google. I'm like, what are you doing short Google? Anyway, with Google up 13 at 224, would I be buying Google on the open? No. You missed it. If you have it, congratulations. I would trim some, and here so right now the Qs are 569.48. So let's just go back to the Qs. Again, you would think if the active bears want to have any kind of power, they reject price into this 570. So again, if you bought weakness into the 50-day, I would be trimming into here, and then we'll see, I guess, what's next. This is up here. So anyway, Apple, though, we do have Apple on as a power play. Yes, we do. What's a power play? Well, I have a bunch of different services here at T3. I have the Alpha team, where we have over 500, probably pretty much professional traders that trade for a living, and we're, on the radio all day. I post 40 charts. We have a great time. We make some money. Sometimes we're better than others. Then I have my note, where you read a note, maybe you trade, you have a career and you want to see what my active plan is. And then power play is like, hey, Red Dog, I don't even want to read your note. I don't want to think about it. Just send me an alert to do what I'm supposed to do. We have a power plays alert options and power plays alert normal. And anyway, so at least Apple's still in that, and at least Chase is still in it. I sold mine into Friday. I did. And I do not have Apple on, unfortunately. Every time I feel like I should, salvage my options, I should triple up on them, and then something would happen good. Anyway, with that being said, Apple. So here's Google up 12, and here's Apple up 8, 237, above 235. And I would say 241 to 243 is your next real spot. So, if you're looking to fade, which you probably shouldn't be looking to fade anyway, this is 241 to 243. Will Chase be selling his Apple? No. Remember, we were in the car during the pandemic. When I started the 630 Club, I remember, world was falling apart. That's when I started Chase's Robinhood account. The first thing he bought was Apple. Anyway, we've been doing the 630 Club for free since 2020. It's 2025. 5 years have passed by. So if you do get some value out of the 630 Club and you don't have any other products, I would subscribe above to the Red Dog Mindset to think clearly, so you could execute before the 630 Club goes away at some point or changes. It's going to change. But anyway, 241 to 243 there. Not everything is up, but tech definitely has a bid. Gold, that was our other power play. Look at that trade. I'm not a gold bug. I'm not one of those guys, but whenever gold technically acts well, besides, those of you asset allocate, I try and let you know when to add, when to get in there for a money move. Well, right here on August 22nd was your day to add for a money move. If you've been accumulating through this channel, this was your spot that took back all the moving averages and showed power. This was a nice igniting bar. Anyway, woohoo! So with that being said, it probably needs a day or two off. So I have a big call spread on, and I shorted a little bit more of the short side because I have the 324s, and I'll hopefully just digest a little bit right here. Anyway, Jim Carver says, what up, RD? Good call on iron. Thank you very much. And open worked also. Yes, iron. This is, look at this trade. Wow. So without even crypto doing well, iron's still moving along. So definitely put this on top of your go-to list. This is a miner / energy / this / that. You could have bought a dip, and what's it doing this morning? It is, where is IREN? It's up 86 cents, above 29.50. Congratulations, Jim. Hopefully you're in there. Kenneth Rosenberg says the sister to IREN. Is it the pretty sister? The other one? No, I'm kidding. Everyone's beautiful inside. CIFR is all right. Yeah, it's a miner too. That looks. Let's see this. This looks like it's just breaking out above this. I like it, Ken. Looks good. Let me take a look at the weekly. Yeah, I guess I don't, without doing any real work on it. Looks like this is where it came down from. So, and big decent consolidation. So if that's a sister, well, maybe something to put on the radar. CIFR. I also think Wolf is kind of in the same arena. Oh, I have the weekly on for Wolf. Look at this little bull flag on top of where prior resistance was. So yeah, I think this Wolf is pretty good too. Wolf, remember, had that deal with Google. I remember back in the day, holy cow, that was a $25, $40. Anyway, make a little group. So what I like to do is I like to put a group together because groups and sectors tend to move together. So if IREN is the lead dog of the miners with AI components and whatnot within energy, then Wolf above the 8-day above here is something you should be definitely also having in that group. And then I guess Kenny's CIP, whatever that was, see something. What was it? It was am I still in BMNR calls? I am still in BMNR calls. I'm not loving them, but I'm staying with it. I went out a month, so I figured at some point, it could find a low. I did trim a little bit into strength yesterday because there was a little strength, but at some point I would think this, this when crypto is ready to be good again and when Ethereum's ready to go, I would think that this BMNR goes. I know Chase. I told you Chase has a little portfolio. He actually bought it here and sold half. I might have him add some back, or just stick with what it is. But anyway, this is Peter and Tom Lee and those guys. But just be careful. Every time it goes up, they need to sell some stock to buy Ethereum. In their, whatever, their corporate covenant, they're supposed to be buying 5% of the Ethereum market. And we'll see. So this looks good. I would be a buyer. I would say go out a month or two and buy the $55 calls or the $70 calls. I have the $60 calls. Looks pretty good. All right, Adam Bush says BMNR is trading around 1.2x to its Ethereum holding. Okay, well, if you remember, Mr. for a while was trading well above, the NAV of whatever Bitcoin it was holding, and usually was a leader, and then this and that, and lately, Mr. just, hasn't been what it should be. But anyway, let's go to Ethereum. Worked its way to the 21-day. Still fine. Broke that inside wedge to the downside. Didn't look great yesterday. It's up a little bit today. Let's see what Ethereum looks like. Ethereum's up 75 cents. BMNR is up $1.19, so that's helpful. Still above the 21-day. Ethereum above the 21-day is still good. Yesterday, Bitcoin got a little bit better, so we'll see. You're looking for red to green and NEO. NEO's been acting better, for all the NEO fans out there. It had a big move. Nice candle yesterday. China's down a little bit. So, if you are navigating NEO, yes, it looks much better than it has. I bought Baidu yesterday. I told you guys I was going to buy Baidu. So I bought Baidu yesterday. We had a power play of Baba calls on, and it worked really, really well. I kind of got lucky. I got saved because Baba looked like arse until finally, even the earnings were not great, but then they talked about the AI NVIDIA chip. But anyway, if you look here at Baidu, if China's going to continue to act a little bit better, I know this has been a very tough name. I would think, why can't this get to 105 or 116? If you look at the weekly chart of Baidu, it's nowhere. Back in the day, remember that? Anyway, this is the weekly chart. So sometimes you want to, go out a little bit here. The 200-day, why can't it see 155? I don't know. But I'm just saying, for some reason, this has been really, really unloved. So I went out, I'm giving it some time so I don't have to micromanage it. Bottom line is Baba was absolutely fantastic, showing you how when these things want to wake up and go, they can wake up and go. You could have bought a dip yesterday in Baba also. I bet you today it probably just needs to relax a little bit just because, it feels like China's anti-U.S. trade. So this has a gap to fill to 142. So if you're in this based on a, verse 128.50, just let it go. Like if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or a policeman, or a school teacher, and you watch the 630 Club, which a lot of you do, or just have my note, or just have power plays, then you can make some cash on the side too. This one, this looks great. So Baba's probably down a little bit, just because it's the U.S. tech is up. So, I would say, hey, If this is going to be any good, which I'm sure it will be, it shouldn't probably get below here, and you could probably buy that dip. Let's Tesla rebounding. It's rebounding a little. It's it's a range trade. Tesla has an identity crisis. Its EV business is slowing. People around the world doesn't love Elon because of what he did with Trump. Trump doesn't love him because he didn't support his big fat juicy roll of billing, whatever. And for us as short-term traders, I like to take trades when it's looking good and special. And bottom line is Tesla gave us a great move. Remember that Friday we bought some on the dip, bought it above this high, sold some, and then right here it did a little bit of a red dog reversal sell. But yesterday, what did it do? It held the 50-day. So if you bought some and sold some, maybe you bought some back. And now what? What's this? 340. Oh, you guys like this song? Hold on.
Try some new fashion. Don't change the color of your hair. You always have my unspoken passion.
Anyway, if I was in Tesla and I bought it yesterday, I'd be trimming into this 340 area. You have some room. Right now, Tesla is up 5. So if you bought the 50-day, yesterday's high is what, 333-ish? So it's already above that. So, 333-ish. I probably, some people like Redler, what's your sell rules? Well, if you have a gap in your favor, you always trim a little bit. You always trim and net some money. You got to get paid. You got to keep the lights on. And then, really, I wouldn't be shorting this, or maybe looking to fade it if you see relative weakness signal right into 340. That's probably the way I would play that. Your XBI had a nice move yesterday. Thank you. XBI is more of a logical. Remember logical? He loves the bios. What a move. Look at that. Nice little move here. Has some room to 94.90. Can't complain about XBI. Rotation happens. Really, XLE was my trade. Wow. What a nice move. I started buying the XLE down here. We were buying like the $86 calls for power plays and went all the way to 90. You could have bought it here, and you could have played it through the downtrend line, and now this gap is less. So what do I mean? So this gap is now here. So we change it. This is now, so I always adjust my charts. I'm always adjusting with points of references, different spots, different ways to look at it, etc. Amazon. Okay, well, that's interesting. Amazon's not up much. Amazon, did also hold. This went to the 50-day. It held. So a lot of things held the 50-day. You probably have a gap full of 228. I remember when I was playing just when I was playing Google and it was lagging a lot. Right here I was like, why is Google lagging so much? I bet you it plays catch up and takes out the highs. And you look at the the weekly chart of Google and it just was lagging. Now finally, Google is at the highs and going. Not like a Meta or a Microsoft that had huge moves. So to me, I get it. Amazon, as good as it's been, it hasn't really done a whole hell of a lot. It hasn't had like a Meta move. Like look at Meta on the weekly. Meta went to highs from down here, whatever. So I would think that at some point, Amazon gets a little bit more respect. It's just tough with Amazon because you have Jeff and Mackenzie, we're the old CEO and wife. They own 20% of the float. So anytime there's really good news in Amazon, freaking guy is selling millions of shares and he suffocates it. So anyway, with that being said, on the daily chart, if you think there's going to be some kind of news of some sort and it's going to happen when you're not looking, then yeah, go out and buy some longer term calls. Andrew James doesn't like Billy Joel. Who doesn't like Billy Joel? You must be un-American, Andrew James. Are you from Europe or something? Or are you like 24 years old? Anyway, yeah, I like that. Oh, take Amazon next 3-week calls 235. So this is where everyone's talking to me. We're going over some things that they're saying, et cetera, et cetera. TM had a good day yesterday. I agree with that one. But yeah, I would go out even further than that, because if September is going to be not a great month, which is just a thought and an opinion because of historical reasons, then in 3 weeks from now, you're still in September. So that means Amazon's not going to be above this. So maybe go to mid-November, just in case. That won't cost you. Or do a big call spread. SOUN. Uh, SOUN. I'm not sure, to be honest. Looks pretty good, though. Came out of this little spot. I think it's a power play. I don't know. Did we get out of that? I don't know. All I know is it looks pretty good, if you're in it. Chart looks good, Ken. I agree. Palantir made me good money yesterday. Palantir was the one that I went green first. Did a little red dog reversal down here. It actually was the first one to lead us lower. So it gave you some clues that the market's not that bearish, right? If Palantir could hold higher, remember yesterday we were here in the 630 club. Like, you could buy PLTR verse 149. It might go red to green. It'll give us some clues if the Qs are going to hold the 50-day and Nvidia is going to hold the 50-day, and boom, there's Palantir. What's Palantir doing today? Giving you a little bit of follow through the trim and trail. Even Nvidia, remember Nvidia at the 50-day? Went below, stopped people out, came back above, and now I would think if it wanted to, there's some room towards 176-ish. So you got to kind of frame out trades. That's what I like to do. I like to frame out trades. Everyone else is like, who's this guy Ord and McClellan? They're bearish. Okay, if you're bearish, that means, and they were bearish 3 days ago, and they're still bearish. How does that tactically make you money? It's just a friggin' nothing. I don't even know how these guys are in business. But anyway, if you're bearish, then, frame it out, okay? That means if you're bearish and you think we're going to make lower lows in September, if you are bearish, okay, well then for you to be right, chances are the Qs aren't going to get much above 570, right? That would be from 583 to the 50-day. Should get rejected into the middle of this area if you're bearish. SPYs probably shouldn't get much above 643, unless, again, remember how it filled the gap and then held in there and went to new highs? Well, if you're bearish, which a lot of these guys out there are just saying because they don't trade and they're not tactical and who the frick knows what they do, then the SPY should not really get much above 643, and you should be, 645 should be like the line in the sand. John Boston says, Scott, I'm also looking at spot. All right, spot. Let's see. Nice reversal yesterday. There you go. Spotify, a lot of great, a lot of really good podcasts on Spotify. By the way, I just started reading a little bit more about, because I've had some lower back problems. I had back surgery in 2017, and I've been modifying since. I did 2 Ironman, 10 marathons back in the day for charity, and now I just do some trail running. But my legs, a little bit numb. So I went to this guy who's awesome PT guy who kind of like looked at my stance, looked at my way I walk, and he's like, one of the big problems is that you breathe through your mouth. He's like, so you're breathing from your rib cage. So he's like, if you could cognitively just breathe through your nose wherever you go without your mouth, you're gonna help loosen up your lower back and do breath work. So I started to add breath work to my 25-20 in the sauna, and I'm learning a little bit more about it, because he says it's the old Tai Chi way, where really, your breath really connects your body in so many ways that you don't know. But anyway, Spotify looks pretty good. Looks like it gets above here. Nice candle yesterday. It's in the game. Robinhood, it's just like everything else. Held the 50-day. No relative strength there. A lot of things that first time you get to the 50-day, it holds. Now we'll see what happens today. Same way the buyers took control after the first hour versus the lows. Now we see if all you active bears out there can take control after the first hour to the upside. With that being said, it's 6:57. I keep going over the 20 minutes. My manager, my partner's like, Red Dog, you give away too much for free. You know what? Most of you guys from the 630 Club you've become Alpha Team members. You've become Redler All Access or Power Play. So I don't care adding value around the world. I only get a small percentage of it anyway. I only make a lot of money when I make money trading. So, and I like it. I like adding value. Sometimes in the streets, someone's like, hey, Red Dog, with Chase, we have some fun. Like, Chase, nice dunk. As soon as people start throwing tomatoes at me, then maybe I'll stop the 630 Club for free. Anyway, with that said, have a good day. If you don't have enough positions on, get over it. It's fine. I'm kind of flat-footed also. But we'll see where we put a little bit of a pivot high. We'll see if there's a little relative weakness. You see if you could favor us a level. And there's a lot of September left. Later, Allison. I appreciate you. Later, Johnny. Later, Adam, Jeff Page, Kobe, Golden Sunlight, Rod. I appreciate you guys.